Okay, 2.1 is we're getting back into trigonometry. So first thing, trig, are you looking at right triangles? So we have a 90-degree angle. Across from that is always the hypotenuse. Okay, so hypotenuse is across from the 90-degree angle. And it's always the longest side, every time. So if you're just given sides, the longest side is the hypotenuse. Okay, so if we're looking at an angle of reference, then the adjacent side and the opposite side change depending on the angle. So let's say this is an angle of reference. Across from the angle of reference is the opposite. And then the remaining side is the adjacent. And adjacent, that word means next to. So it's next to the angle. Okay, also always remember when we have right triangles, the Pythagorean theorem. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Or maybe just remember that the order doesn't matter. Leg squared plus leg squared. And the legs are those lines that make the 90-degree angle. Those are called the legs. Equals the hypotenuse squared. Alright, so trig ratios, we learned these in Math 2 with SOHCAHTOA. Maybe you remember that. But we're going to add 3 more this year. So sine is OH. S is for sine, O is for opposite, over H, which is for hypotenuse. And that sine, when we shorten it, we still say sine. I would read this, sine of theta. Okay, cosine, when we shorten it, we still read it as cosine, and that's adjacent over hypotenuse. And then tangent of theta is opposite over adjacent. So our 3 new ones are cosecant, secant, and cotangent. And they're actually just reciprocals of these. So cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. It's the reciprocal of sine. Secant, hypotenuse over adjacent. It's the reciprocal of cosine. And cotangent, you guessed it, adjacent over opposite. It's the reciprocal. And all of these are kind of related when we look at right triangles. So, let me move my paper here. My cofunctions are the ones that go together. So if I take the cosine of A, that's going to be equal to the sine of B. And its cofunction is if I take the sine of A, it's going to be the cosine of B. Those are related. They're reciprocals. And we can do the same thing with some more of these. If I take the tangent of A, that's equal to the cotangent of B. And when I'm talking about A and B, those are just angles in a right triangle. They're the other 2 angles, not the 90-degree. Okay, so tangent of this is cotangent of this. Well, guess what? Cotangent of this is tangent of this. And one more, our new one, cosecant of A equals secant of B. And that's because these, cosine, secant, are reciprocals. And then it goes the other way. Secant of A equals cosecant of B. And those are just good to know if you're checking your answers. Last one, inverse trig. We use these to find angles, not sides. And you'll see them with the little 1. That's inverse sine. inverse cosine, inverse tangent. Okay, so notice even though I'm writing sin, it's not sin. It's still read sine. This is not cos, it's cosine. It's not tan, it's tangent. Even though we're shortening them, when we read these angles, I want you to still say tangent, cosine, sine, cosecant, secant, tangent, or cotangent. Okay? So we'll get into solving some right triangles next.